Alright, Sweepa Day. So Sweepa gets boosted by having a bunch of Swees. It not only gets an attack boost that is a little higher than having like the Foxicle boosters, it also gets a defense boost. And then the boosters themselves can have Vanguard and Stronghold to boost you. And you get this Sweepa with a quite high, or actually quite insanely high attack and defense stat. So I think the attack stat was comparable to when I had a maxed Astagon in my party with the 4 boosters, and then the defense was a bit higher. So it's a very beefy pal now. Um, so it's actually a super viable late game pal to use stat wise. We're gonna try out some of the combat mechanics. This will be a pretty like chill, more testing session kind of thing. Compared to like the best combat builds videos and stuff like that. I'm not like try-harding here my best. I'm just running around a bit testing the pals in this kind of playthrough. Or this kind of series with these tower boss days. I've got the raid days videos which will hopefully be raid armies soloing raid bosses. And then we're gonna have these tower boss days which will be when I'm using different kind of builds and pals to do all these tower bosses. Maybe I'll skip so in the future though. It seems like the difficulty curve of the tower bosses. I'm not sure, like it's also a very quick fight. I think the quickest fight is probably Marcus and Phaleris. Once people start using like the skills that are super effective against the big bird. Slowest fight has gotta be either Bjorn or Saya, I think. Depends a little bit. Like Victor can be a little bit slow if you're doing PAL only builds. Because your PAL might start focusing the clone a bit and stuff like that. He's quite tanky. I think since Shadowbeak has such high defense stat, when you're doing hard mode, I think you do like half the damage to Shadowbeak as you do to Celine. Something like that. I might be making these numbers up, but I felt like it was very noticeable how tanky Shadowbeak is. So those fights can be a little bit longer. Then Bjorn is just extremely long on its own. It's the reverse Saya. Saya was a glass cannon and Bjorn is just a tank. But still a cannon though. So overall, Sweepa's performance against So can't really say much. She doesn't do a whole lot. I felt like the combo with double Blizzard Spike, so I did breed double Blizzard Spike to it because it's ice. Why not? It's a strong skill. I felt like the combo with double blizzard and like air blade and rock burst, he jumped back. I'm not sure how that works with the jump back. If pals have a tendency to jump back for certain skills, like he was jumping back twice, a lot, and that means no big rock burst hit and no big air blade hit. So maybe that's not that's like a counter combo, maybe. I'll have to look into that a little bit. With when do pals do that double jump back? Like it might be a good thing to consider defensively as well. If you're fighting certain pals that use rock burst, maybe using 3 skills with double jump back or like trying to keep their distance. Something to note about Flame Funnel: if you withdraw the pal, it seems like it keeps going with a little bit worse accuracy. Thunderstorm, just very cool skill. Thought the colors matched very well. And also there's not a whole lot of great skills to use against Lily. It's a similar hitbox to like, I guess, Cyan, Celine, and Libero, where some skills just don't seem to hit a whole lot. Like Lightning Streak might only hit once or even 0 times. Air Blade I don't think hits a whole lot, maybe. Depends a little bit on the angle. But I felt like Air Blade with double Blizzard Spike wasn't working very well. Flame Funnel overall, super strong skill. Then I guess what I do like about Thunderstorm, I think it's decent against these like smaller targets. And it doesn't miss, it just follows the boss around. Decent damage, quite a high cooldown, so it won't like overlap too much, I think, with other skills being used. And it's just a cool skill. I think we've seen that Sweepa could handle this boss, barely losing health. Just gonna shoot a little bit, see if I draw aggro, like, not do too much damage, but speed it up a little bit. She does have a pretty big head, but I do miss it anyways. Looks like double Blizzard Spike is hitting. I was worried double Blizzard Spike would miss the floating hitbox. There are certain pals and like combos where some skills just miss. You'll often see it when you're fighting stuff like Van Worm. They have a little bit of a not buggy. I mean, I guess they are flying pals and floating pals. I guess it ties into it, like using the correct skill. But sometimes they just send the Blizzard Spike or whatever way below the flying pal. I have seen that some people use like this as a tactic. They use Van Worms and stuff because the enemy pals tend to miss them a lot. So like a really juiced up Van Worm can actually be a good party pal. Maybe it could even be good for raids if the raid pals miss them. But I doubt like Omega Laser and stuff would miss. Next up, yep, Electric Dragon combo. So, yeah, that's a miss. Double Blizzard Spike missed immediately. So, Axel is, like, he has the small hitbox. So he's not like Marcus, weak to just being big. But he does have a pretty bad typing. Like, the elements, Dragon and Electric are weak to pretty strong skills. It's not that it's bad for any other reason. It's just that being weak to Rock Burst, Double Blizzard Spike, and Diamond Rain, it's not a great place to be. The Diamond Rain does a lot of damage to smaller hitboxes as well. It's like Thunderstorm. It will do the same regardless. Trying to hit some big Rock Burst hits by summoning the pal real close. Something I do a lot with Noclum. I feel like it's super strong. Like my DPS tests and comparisons don't really take that into account if you're playing like this. That's just pure AFK pals, more for like raid scenarios. If you are like manipulating positioning and stuff, you can do quite insane amounts of damage with Seed Mine, Rock Burst, Air Blade. Even against some pals, Lightning Streak, if you like position your pal to line up Lightning Streak along like the wings or the entire length of a German Tide or something. It also deals quite a lot of damage. Not sure if I should have gone for Absolute Frost, but since this was a tower, I don't think Absolute Frost would have been good against tower bosses. I think it's more a raid boss thing, that they're so big. Maybe Absolute Frost would have been good against like Victor, but he's already weak to do some very specific skills. That's a big Rock Burst hit. So I guess that's one thing against Bjorn and Bastigor. They don't have that hitbox, which made them very weak to certain things, like Marcus and Shadowbeak. Or Marcus and Victor. Very weak. Then we have this passive thing. I haven't really mentioned it a lot since they added it. This spamming ice missile. I still need to do a DPS test and see which one is best, but I guess there isn't a lot to do about it. They did change the electric one and the dark one now to be a little bit better. So I guess they were keeping tabs a little bit on their own. But now we're gonna see. So this is the thing with the priority, right? I was really torn here on what skill to use. Decided to switch away from Curtain Splash because if you have Curtain Splash, the pal will always use Curtain Splash first against a fire pal compared to Holy Burst. And I wanted to prioritize Holy Burst. So you see now it uses Holy Burst first. And then it'll use Air Blade, Lightning Streak. But it will always use Holy Burst if it's off cooldown first. And if you have some other skills, like if you send in or select like Splash and Wall Splash, it will use both of those and then Holy Burst. And if you're like withdraw dodging and stuff like that, this is an Ice Pal also against Fire. Not a great combo. So yeah, it's just something like with the priority to keep in mind. If you have something really strong and then you're just adding stuff, like it was pretty common against Rio, especially when raiding Rio when it came out, that people would have like Hydro Laser, I don't know, like Acid Rain or something, Wall Splash, and then Holy Burst. So they would spawn in Rio and Holy Burst would be the last skill pals would use. That's probably why when you look at like the DPS tests against stuff like Xenolord and Rio, if they are using Airblade and Lightning Streak, they seem to do really good. And that might just be a little bit like they are really good skills, but people might be overthinking how good they are. It might just be that Holy Burst is getting priority instead, which makes them very strong builds to use. In the previous video I started doing something, I didn't really mention it a lot. It started like animation cancelling the pause between attacks. So I noticed when you're just letting this pal attack on its own, it will use its skill, then it might like walk around for 3 seconds, then it uses its skill. See, now it's walking around, then it uses a skill, then it might use another skill immediately if it's like off cooldown. Then it might walk around, it might do this ice missile, and it just isn't a huge amount of DPS if you're letting it spend maybe 5 seconds using ice missile when you could just sort of withdraw dodge it. So I guess I'm trying out like animation cancelling the pal attacks when it's not like if you can hear ice missile start to charge up, I think it's safe to withdraw. Beam slicer, you might need to charge it a little bit longer than that. You can see as long Kate's using ice missile, we withdraw it, uses holy burst instead, and maybe that holy burst came out like, I don't know, 3 seconds before it would have otherwise. So you could see it against the Phalaris fight, but the Phalaris fight was very fast due to just like, I guess animation cancelling the drawback of the pal attacks. I mean, it won't be super effective when you're doing stuff like shooting plasma cannons and multi-missiles, since you will interrupt your reloading. But if you're doing like pal only damage, I guess it's good. And that is still what we're testing here. Just how this, it does have vampiric, so it heals quite a bit. Especially once you get, if you get Victor and his clone stacked up like this, then they're gonna spread out with Divine Disaster. You can hide behind a pillar, try to get them stacked again. Because using Blast Cannon, Beam Slicer, and Holy Burst, if you hit both of them at the same time with Vampiric, it's just an incredible amount of healing. And then I haven't really mentioned it so far in the video, the stats on the Sweepa, right, like with the Sweep bonus on defense. It has extremely high attack, very high defense, and then the Vampiric on top of that against tower bosses makes it very strong. Oh, he's coming. No pets, I guess. It's a very strong build against these tower bosses. I felt like out of all the pals I've done this with, just like letting them kind of solo the bosses, it's probably performing the second best so far. I guess Noclum is by far the best. Using 2 Noclums and 3 Doomils and rotating between that. But this Sweepa, even since I'm not rotating, you have to consider that as well. I am withdraw dodging a bit though. But that's something I haven't done in the Noclum video and stuff. There I just let them duke it out, like if they were in a PAL arena scenario. But I guess like, if you just want to rely on PAL damage and you don't mind withdraw dodging, this build is probably one of the top tier. I mean, it feels like it, since it can survive the boss attacks with the high defense, and then it heals right up. Not having to rotate between 5 pals is nice. Like we have this discussion now with using how many boosters, and now that skills cool down in the spheres. How are you gonna do 1 pal and 4 boosters? Maybe 3 pals and 2 boosters, stuff like that. One thing that is very nice about 1 pal and 4 boosters, or 2 things, is the investment with like souls. You don't need to max souls, you don't need to max IVs, you don't even need to level boosters. You don't need to give them food. They just sit there, right? And they give you Vanguard and Stronghold. And if you're using pals that are attacking pals and rotating between attacks, then you're not getting Vanguard, Stronghold. You're having to use like 3 to 5 like attack buffed foods per fight, even healing potions, then the maxing with all the souls and stuff. So overall, I don't feel like a whole lot is gonna change unless people are trying to do like speedrun kills on tower bosses. The biggest change for me is gonna be like when you're leveling. When you go in to kill like an alpha boss for the first time, like you're level 20 and you wanna kill Bushi, you could bring like 5 Serpents and just rotate between their strongest water skill or something. Since you don't have like Serenity and stuff like that at that stage of the game, that's probably, like the power spike's gonna be huge when people catch their first 5 Shadow Beaks. and you go from like your random leveling pal to cycling between 5 divine disasters against tower bosses. Gonna make that part of the game a whole lot easier. Those are just some things to keep in mind with this booster versus rotating pals thing. Overall, this fight is feeling a lot slower than the Victor fight, just because she's not weak to these. I mean, she is weak to them. It's the same skills, Beam Slicer and stuff, but you don't have the Holy Burst damage, and just Beam Slicer and Blast Cannon just do a little bit less damage to this hitbox. It's a lot smaller. Versus the clones, you can try to nuke them down. They're not like Victor's clones. They are very weak. They are also pretty nice, like little heal potions for your pal if you are running Vampiric. It hits them pretty hard. If you can get them all grouped up around a pillar again, like one Beam Slicer or Blast Cannon, you usually end up killing those and healing your pal up to full. I feel it's a little bit the opposite of Victor's clone, I feel. Victor's clone, very scary, does the Divine Disaster stuff, you can get them mixed up unless you're seeing like the health bar. While Saya's clones are just free little health potions if you're running Vampiric or Felbat. They can be a bit annoying if they do line up a bunch of like comets with Meteor Rain together with like Blizzard Spike. But it's usually fine. If you have like a maxed out pal, it usually ends up killing them in a one rotation if you get them grouped up. Like you don't have to run around in the open like this. You can use the pillars a lot to get pals stacked up, like with ads and everything. Hungry. Did I not... Okay, but once the ads are dead, I feel like that is, even if it's like free health potions, that's only if you're running Vampiric or Felbat build. I feel like once the pals are dead, you're pretty safe in this fight. If you've gotten this far, then you've probably learned that you need to watch out for Airblade and Holy Burst and Star Mine. And this skill, it only works if you dodge the other direction. It's a bit weird. If you dodge right, you dodge. If you dodge left, it doesn't work. I wonder if I take less burn damage when I have an ice pal out. Because I've noticed you take more burn damage if you have a fire pal out. I haven't checked if I take less with an ice pal, if that lowers the temperature. It can be a bit scary using a fire pal against something like Bjorn. I think he has a skill that sets you on fire. And against Phalaris as well. Speaking of Bjorn, that's where we're heading now. The last fight. And same thing with the skills here. Like he doesn't have this hitbox to abuse. There's no like super overpowered skill against him. I feel like Flame Funnel is probably the best one. By quite a wide margin. So you want to use that as often as possible. Some choices are Rock Burst, but I feel like Rock Burst hasn't been working super well on this build. I don't know if Sweepa just stays a little bit further away or something. Then I wanted a shorter cooldown. Yep, they fixed this Frost Talon thing. It now does not get interrupted when you shoot it. So something with the cooldown here is I didn't want long cooldown skills like Fireball, because I don't want my Sweepa using Ice Missile against an Ice boss. So even if it's got this little, like, it's not low damage, these low cooldown skills. Like, they're not only filler, they're also quite a high DPS themselves. I don't want the Sweepa wasting time using too many Ice Missiles against Bjorn. I feel like that's a waste. But hopefully Lightning Streak and Airblade are higher than using like Flare Storm. And I feel like they've changed this one as well, the glacial impact. I feel like the window to dodge is a lot narrower now. Not sure if I'm just imagining things. And if it is narrower, I don't know in what direction. Like if I should be dodging later or earlier. But I do feel like before I would just kind of press roll and it would dodge it. Now I need to be like timing it almost perfectly when he hits the ground. I feel like. I might be imagining things. And I'm always trying to shoot, when I remember to, a little bit like over his shoulder almost with this quad launcher. I feel like it gives the highest chance of headshots, but I'm not entirely sure. Like a little bit up to the left, I feel like has been a decent chance. But honestly, it's very random. Which is why the plasma cannon is probably like the overall better weapon in raw DPS. Like the quad launcher, definitely the easiest weapon to use in the game. Since you can reload and shoot at full speed, you're just kind of strafing around, timing the reloads to the boss's attacks. You can just kind of keep spam shooting, dodge however much you want, and you don't get this slowdown from aiming. You can shoot around pillars, like there's a lot of stuff with it. And then, but you don't get the headshots with it. So against like the chopper or something where you're comfortable shooting headshots a lot. Something that stands still, preferably. Plasma cannon just ends up being way higher DPS with the headshots. And when these water bubbles, they block shots, don't shoot them. Don't waste your missiles on that. Another successful roll dodge. But if they have changed it to be a lot narrower, I might go back to using the grapple to dodge it. Because I don't feel like it's worth getting frozen and then exploded. Doesn't feel great. There are so many accessories I want to wear in this fight. I want the triple jump boots because it just makes dodging double blizzard spike a lot easier. I want the ice, dark, water, even the ground ring of resistance. You can skip the ground, it's only for the stone beats, but it would be nice. Then I want the attack pendants, you got the life and defense pendant. Even the thermal shirt if you're gonna be fighting him at night. I think I am wearing the thermal shirt right now. Since this was not really a min-maxed run. I'm not gonna include this in my hard mode Bjorn DPS testing. Where I got the builds to compare. I'll do another fight where I'm actually using the better stuff. Here I'm kind of just testing out how the aggro is. So you see here you get frozen and then exploded. So I'm wearing the resistance ring and the legendary hex slide armor. So that's a lot of damage if you get the combo from being frozen. But I feel like the Sweepa is performing very well. Like this is Sweepa's tower boss fight day. Just the raw defense stat on it feels like it's helping a bunch. Then I've been experimenting a bit more with like combat mechanics as well. With this whole animation cancelling with withdrawing. I haven't done it a lot this fight, but that's because I'm using these super low cooldown skills. I feel like it's something you might want to be using more with these 45 plus CT skills. Like Divine Disaster and stuff like that. I'm also hoping that they buff all the tower bosses to this level, the hard modes. Right now Bjorn is level 60 and the other hard modes are level 55 still. You feel like the fight is so close to being over as well. I wonder how many people died like during the last 20% because you sort of started like, oh now it's almost done, but there's still like almost a minute left on the fight and you get like hit by a random stone beat. But overall, I really liked this pal. I thought this tower day was very fun to do. Just sweeping through all the towers, managing to do them all in one clean run. Quite fun. Hopefully we get some more dragon pals to fight with it. because I want to use the double blizzard spike a bit more. Got vampiric for the tower bosses, and since it's a party booster, I will be using it as a party pal. Won't be breeding a raid army of this one. So for now, thanks for watching.